Hello, vibrant souls. Welcome back to another episode of the Narrator Ramirez podcast. One of the things that I wanted to share with you guys before I start the episode is that the podcast is officially live on Apple Podcast. Whoop whoop! So not only is it streaming on Spotify and YouTube, but now it's officially on Apple. So if you haven't already, please head over there and leave a rating, but also a review. So you can, I don't think you can. I think I've searched it up before and you can't leave reviews on Spotify, but you can on Apple. So I would really, really appreciate if you go on there and leave a review. So most of you guys have messaged me directly on how much the podcast has, or the episode and the topics that I've been sharing have shifted your perspective, have made you ponder and reflect, and just how much you guys have enjoyed it. So I would love to hear more. And if you want, just send it to me. I also love just reading the messages because it literally adds so much fuel to continue to show up to this. And of course, like I love showing up to this. It's so much fun for me. And yeah, and that's the whole point is like having fun. And to also be love and share love. So, yeah. Okay, so thank you again for being here. So, on this episode, I'm going to be sharing what to do when we wake up negative. So, one of the reasons why I wanted to do an episode on this is because it happened to me this weekend where I woke up negative. And as there was a shift happening within me, I was like, I would love to do a podcast episode on this because one, I've been there, but also two, like I've heard so many people share how when they feel this way, like their whole day is just wasted or their whole day is just gone. And I'm pretty sure all of us have had those mornings where we wake up negative or we wake up in a funk and things are spilling and things are falling and it just feels like it's not our day. But one of the things that I really wanted to emphasize with this topic is that at any given moment, at any given second, we can literally create the shifts within us, whether it's emotionally, whether it's mentally, whether it's energetically. We literally have the power within ourselves to create these shifts. And I wanted to share with you how. And of course, the tips that I'm about to share don't always work. So you do have to find something that works for you. And it doesn't work every single time, right? Maybe one morning going for a walk will help. And the next morning, you just don't want to go for a walk. And maybe what helps is meditating, right? So you have to reflect in the moment as you're feeling in the muck and try different things and just get curious with it. So, again, going back to that emphasis of we have the power within ourselves to create these shifts in any given moment, you know? So it doesn't have to the whole idea of there goes my day or crap, there goes my whole week. Like, no, 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 no. We do not have to accept that truth for ourselves. We do not have to accept that reality for ourselves. So screw that. Like this weekend when I woke up that way, I was like, okay, my day is going to get better. Like I am not going to be in this energy or in this mug for the rest of the day. Okay. So, yes. Okay. So one of the things First of all, actually, one of the things to do is to really be aware of our thoughts and really be curious with the muck and being curious with it like an observer, right? So when I woke up this morning, I could feel the mug, I could feel some like heavy thoughts coming through, and it was like, okay, what is going on mentally? Am I in a constant loop about something? Am I being hard on myself over something? What's like the story that I'm telling myself this morning? And of course, like it happened just um in a given not it didn't happen like in the given moment, right? It was like maybe a couple of minutes. It was like this whole thing happened within like a couple of maybe an hour or two of like my morning. And as I woke up, I like was pondering on this and it was a really hard moment to get my feet on the ground. Like, it was hard for me to get grounded. And one of the first things that popped up for me was, oh, I had a bad dream. And the dream felt very real. So I don't remember what the dream was right now, but I remember in the moment thinking, oh, yeah, like, of course that was a bad dream. Like, I'm curious if I'm carrying or lingering those feelings from the dream into my morning. So I sat on my bed and I was like, okay, maybe that's it. Right. But again, still being curious with like my thoughts because I still felt a little heavy. And the other thing that popped up for me was my eating habits the night prior. And I was able to become aware of my thoughts, right? So I'm going to let you know. I'm going to give you an example of how this worked out for me. So what was going on in my story was, oh man, Narita, last night you had Panda Express late at night. Like, what are you thinking? What are you doing? You're trying to be healthy. You're trying to eat a little bit more plant-based, and here you are at 11 p.m. having Panda Express, chicken chow mein, and like, you should know better. So I was aware of that thought, right? And it was just like a constant loop. And I was becoming aware how I did it, not just that previous night, but another night. I was like, crap, like, and the thoughts or the story kept going into crap, like, when am I going to learn? When is the shift going to happen? Like, I should know better. Like, I've been, doing all these like YouTube videos on like eating healthier. And I just felt really shitty about it. So in that moment, I was like, okay, like, I know what I can do that's going to make me feel better with this thought. And it was going to the gym, right? So I ended up getting dressed and driving to the gym. And as I was driving to the gym, I felt very, very resistant. It kind of felt like a magnetic kind of pull where, like, I just really didn't want to go to the gym. So I got to the gym, I was at the parking lot and I was sitting there. And again, feeling this shift, I was like, oh, but I really don't want to go. So the story just added some more stories to it of, come on, you have to go to the gym. You've heard so many videos of people going to the gym even when they don't want to. You just have to push yourself. And in that moment, I sat in my car and I'm like, man, like, I just really don't want to. So I ended up going to Target. Okay. So I ended up going to Target, getting some stuff that I needed for the house. And I went back to the gym and I'm like, okay, let me try this again. And again, like, I sat in the car with this energetic pull of resistance, feeling like I didn't want to move my body. And in that moment, as I'm sitting in my car, I was like, okay, I just got to accept that this is where I'm at. Woke up mucky, woke up in these negative thoughts and feelings, and I just don't want to go to the gym, right? So, going to like my little bullet points is one, becoming aware of your thoughts, and two would be accepting where you're at in the moment. Because I think that when we don't accept where we're at, we are hard on ourselves and we do add judgment of what we should be doing, of maybe what we should already know, of things that are like the right things to do. And obviously, like, we're not doing it or we feel resistant to them. So it would definitely be one, being aware of your thoughts, asking yourself these questions out of curiosity, and two, this acceptance of, yeah, this is just where I'm at this morning. And it's crazy because the moment that you accept where you're at, it literally feels like the shift starts to occur. No judgment whatsoever, right? So in that moment, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go back home. Fuck it. Not going to go to the gym, not going to go for my walk, just going to go back home. And as I got back home, I was thinking, like, okay, what will make me feel good right now? What would make me feel excited for my day because it's still morning? And one of the first things that popped up for me was, let me take a shower and get all dolled up. And what do I mean dolled up, right? Like, doing my makeup, wearing my fake eyelashes, putting on a dress. And I had just gotten a dress that week. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to wear that dress. I have no plans today and I'm going to get dolled up and wear that dress. And as I took a shower and as I was getting ready, I can feel my energy and my thoughts and my emotional space shifting. So this is why I'm saying, right? Like, what I'm about to share may work one morning and may totally not work the other morning. So you have to get curious as to where you're at in that moment and asking yourself these questions. So I got dolled up. I totally got dolled up. And in that moment, as I was like putting my makeup on, I could feel the shift of feeling grateful. And I was like, and then I got excited because I could feel the shift. Like, yes, like how awesome. Okay, cool. Like, and again, I asked myself, okay, like, well, what do I want to do? I'm gonna get dolled up. What's something that's gonna add to my soul? And what popped up for me was going to a coffee shop and just working on some stuff for myself. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. Excuse me. The joys of recording live. I just burped. So excuse me. Yes, I got dolled up and I got my stuff ready and I ended up going to a coffee shop and I stayed there for most of the day. And again, right, like as I'm there, I'm like sitting next to the window and the sun is shining and I'm having my coffee, my favorite type of coffee. I'm working on some things that I'm passionate about, and the shift just becomes bigger and bigger, moving away from the muck and how I woke up to these feelings of gratitude, to these feelings of feeling good, to these feelings of being okay and feeling a little bit more joyful and yeah, totally shifting, right? So, one of the things that I also wanted to share is that I don't want to say positive, right? From negative to positive, because it's like a polar effect. What I tell myself instead, or the way that I work through it instead, is what's the truth of the situation, or what's like matter of fact, or what's happening in terms of reality, right? So, going from those feelings to being curious with myself on what would fill my soul rather than, okay, what's like something positive that I can do? It's like, okay, what's something instead that in reality would add something to my soul that would make me feel joyful, that would make me feel peaceful, and going towards that instead. So, and it's crazy, right? Like something that I love about doing these episodes is that I choose a topic probably like last minute, not last minute, but the day of doing the episode. Sometimes I choose a topic and I brainstorm for a whole week. And it's so awesome because that week or that day, something happens that just connects to the podcast episode. So as I was going through this weekend, and as this shift was happening, it was like an idea of like, okay, I'm gonna record an episode on this because again, like I wanted to emphasize that because we're having a bad morning doesn't mean that our whole day is fucked, right? Oh, and I didn't even share, like that morning, my plants fell, there was like dirt everywhere, and I was just like, are you serious? Again, taking a deep breath and just going back to reality, like, okay, it's okay. I just dropped this. The reality is there's dirt all over the floor and I just have to clean it up and it's okay. Totally okay. But a couple of days prior, actually, I was working with one of my clients and we did this activity where I challenged her to write the negative thoughts and then write the opposite thoughts. So that's another thing that you could also do. You can journal. You can journal the thoughts that you're having and write the positive thoughts, right? If that's what you want to label it, or write the reality of the situation. So to go through like bullet points, because I love bullet points and that's how I share in my podcast, is if you wake up in these mucks of the feelings I already expressed, asking yourself these questions, right? Becoming aware, being curious, acceptance. But maybe you could also get dolled up. Would that work for you in that morning? Would it work for you to shower, to put on some makeup, to wear your best outfit in the closet, even if you're not doing anything? And even for you dudes too, right? Will that work for you? Would that add some joy into your life? Would that add feeling good? Because when I did that, I felt really, really pretty and it made me feel good, right? So, second would be if you do have the energy for it, will going to the gym work? Will going for a walk around your neighborhood work? Because there have been times where I do wake up a little bit in a muck, not as heavy as this past weekend, but I do wake up feeling a little like heavy or a little bit in my thoughts, and I go to the gym and the shift happens during the gym. Of course, there's still resistance, not as much as like this weekend, but there is some type of resistance. And yet I show up and I do my workout. And as I'm doing my workout, the shift is occurring. And when I get out, I feel really, really good. And I feel joyful and I feel gratitude. So, will that work for you that morning? Right? The other question to ask is, okay, like what fills up my soul and how can I make that happen this morning? So for me was when I asked myself that question was, oh, like going to a coffee shop would fill up my soul. You know, especially right now because the sun is out and summer is coming through and there's AC at the coffee shop. And it was like, okay, like I want to do that. Like that's going to fill up my soul. And for you, it could be anything else. So get curious with it as well. And what I just said, right? The other practice could be journaling. Journal and vent all of these thoughts that are happening or that are occurring to you in the moment. And write down the reality of it. Write down the positive thoughts of it. So if I were to do that activity for what happened this weekend, so I already expressed to you the story, right? Like the the eating so late at night. And actually what came through afterwards was a lot of grace. And it went to, okay, the reality is that night that I ate late at night, my friend and I went to the beach and we had such a awesome time, a beautiful time. And I was really, really fucking hungry. like, like I really, really wanted to eat. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever had those cravings where you want to bite, like you want to feel fulfilled in your belly and just have that really good meal. So that night, that evening, as we were heading back home from the beach, I wanted that. Like I wanted a fulfilling meal and Panda Express was it. So it was like, oh, like that's the reality of it. That's where I was at that night. And it's okay, giving myself grace for it. In the previous night, right, where I did the same thing, it was like the same craving. Like, oh, I just wanted, I think I had like a long day or something and I had like back to back clients and um, I didn't eat, you know, like between or I didn't have lunch, and it was one of those I'm just craving something meaty and like delicious and something so fulfilling for my belly. And I had Panda Express. Same thing. And it was like, oh, okay. That's the reality of it. And it's okay. Like it's totally okay. So it's a lot of giving ourselves grace for it. But again, you can journal this out or you can even ponder on it and just make those shifts within yourself mentally. And the other thing that we can do too is practice gratitude, right? Totally practicing gratitude. And I know when we're in those feelings, it can be really, really hard, but not impossible, right? Maybe you can sit down and put some meditation music or put some of your favorite music that make you feel uplifted and tell yourself three things that you're grateful for or three things that made you smile that weekend or that week. And even if you don't feel the gratitude, it still helps with creating the shift for when it's happening or when it's gradually happening. And it just helps add to your cup, right? So, so yeah, so I ended up, so that morning, the shift happened. Again, like I said, maybe it was like within an hour or two of all of that from like waking up to like pondering and sitting on my bed to getting dressed and going to the gym and to Target and back to the gym, then going home and then showering and then really feeling the shift happening for myself. Um, so yeah, so those are some of the stuff to get curious about, to explore, to try out. And again, like it's not going to work, right? Like one of these tools isn't going to work every morning, but play around with it and get curious with it and see what pops up for you. So yeah, that is what I wanted to share with you guys for this episode. And again, just to really, really emphasize, right? We can create these shifts at any given moment. We can literally choose again at any given moment. And this goes back to a topic when it comes to like fear and love, right? Like sometimes we're in these spaces of fear and we can choose love over and over again. And it's relatable, it's like the same blueprint almost. Sometimes we're fearful about certain stuff. In that moment, again, it's like being curious with the fear, like, what is the fear? And choosing again to be more in a space of love. So with this, same thing, choosing again to see what makes us feel better and to see what adds to our cup, to make what makes us feel uplifted. And again, like a lot of it is also like acceptance, like this is where I'm at in the moment. When we try to resist where we're at, oh, sorry about that. When we try to resist what's happening in the moment with our feelings or with the energy, I feel like we add more of it. And I get it, like it could be scary to accept where we're at because it feels that we actually add more of it if we accept it, but that's not true. The moment that we accept it, it feels as if we are actually releasing ourselves from it. So just something to ponder on. So if any of this relates to you, let me know because I would love to hear about it. But yeah, so if you're listening, I would love to hear in this moment 3 things that you're grateful for. So if you're on Spotify, shoot it down in the comments below. If you're on YouTube and you're watching this, shoot in the comments below. And if you're on Apple, I believe you can leave reviews, right? Like in the same episode. Leave your 3 things you're grateful for. Or what you can do is you can also text me. So text me 3 things you're grateful for, and I'll start off, right? So one of the things that I'm grateful for today is that one, I was able to connect Spotify episodes to Apple. So I'm really, really grateful that the podcast is officially on Apple. Yes. So it's funny because actually I've been not that I've been trying, but when I first started my podcast on Spotify, I wanted to do Apple too, but at the time it just felt way too much of things to learn. And I kept putting it off and I kept putting it off. And today, for somehow it just felt super easy and I was able to connect everything together. So everything at its time, right? Two, the second thing that I'm grateful for is for my weekend. So I had a really good weekend. Yesterday I went hiking with a friend of mine and there was like a waterfall. It's called Lewis Falls Hike. And I'd been there before, but this weekend there was a lot of water. Lot of water, so beautiful, literally felt very magical. And we got to see 2 frogs. There were so many butterflies and we got in the water and I just felt so in the moment and it felt so nice. And just the company, right, with my friend and, like, the talks that we had and the laughs that we had. So really, really grateful for that. Super, super nice. And the third one would be the night out that I had also this weekend. So that day when I woke up negative, spontaneous plans just happened, and I ended up going out dancing. And if you know me, I love to dance. I love to be on the dance floor. I love the ambience of being in a space and the lights shining on us and just seeing people dance, and I could really feel the music just in my body and I let my body take over, and just so much fun. So I'm really, really grateful for a night out of dancing, and it was fun. We met, my friend and I, we met another girl, and she invited us over to her place, and we ended up going over and just hanging out for a little bit, and it literally reminded me when I was 21. So I don't know how many of you guys can relate, but how many of you guys, even now, right, have been to a bar and you meet random people and you just decide to hang out afterwards, and there's no concept of going home, there's no concept of worrying about anything really of like work or like your family or like parents, like you're just in the moment enjoying yourself. And I think it's been a while since I felt that way. So going over to this girl's house and just hanging out and like having a good time and just talking and laughing felt like I was 21 again. And there's just like no concept of giving a fuck. I think maybe that's what it is. Maybe there was a little bit because my friend had to go to work the next day, but even then, it was agreed that, we both felt that way of, feeling that way of just being in the moment. So it was a lot of fun. So those are my 3 things. So I would love to hear your 3 things. So with that said, thank you guys again for being here. Thank you guys for listening to me, for tuning in. And please don't forget to go on Apple and to rate and to leave a review because I would really, really appreciate it. And yeah, so with that said, yeah, so I'm thinking like, okay, is there anything else that I would like to add before I close off? But no, with that said, I hope you guys have a beautiful weekend and stay tuned because there's more episodes coming up and more guests. And I made a list of guests and I think I had like 15 people, but I've only asked like 2 of them. And I'm excited. I'm having old childhood friend, old classmate of grade school showing up on an episode to talk about traveling and to talk about mental health issues and how traveling helps with that. So I'm really excited about that. I have another person that we want to talk about spirituality and just like this therapy work. So, so yeah, stay tuned because I'm super excited. Okay, with that said, if anything arises, just reach out to me. Much, much love.